Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Sight to Sideline Report. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have another jam-packed episode here today. Like always, we will be talking about my takeaways from round one of the NBA playoffs. Of all of this series, we're going to be breaking them all down and how those games transpired in round one. I know round two is underway. All of the game ones have already happened as of today. Today were the first game ones of the Lakers Thunder and why am I blanking? Cavs Pistons series. Those were some pretty entertaining games, so I will be talking about that sometime next week and in kind of like a midpoint NBA playoff round two breakdown. So look forward to that. I am definitely looking forward to that. But like I said today, we will just be talking about round one of the NBA playoffs and what round one means for the teams involved moving forward. So I hope you guys enjoy this podcast as always, and let's just dive in with the Western Conference. The first series we're going to be talking about is the Thunder Sun series. Now, I'm talking about this one first just because I feel like out of all of the series, out of all of the round one series, this series went the closest to what I expected. I think that it was exactly what I expected. I kind of went into this series feeling similar about this series than how I felt about the Thunder Grizzlies series last year. It was kind of like you knew that the Thunder just outmatched their opposition in every category. The Suns were an entertaining team in the regular season, don't get me wrong. I loved what Dylan Brooks brought to this team. I felt like he brought a certain tenacity, and I felt like that really spread throughout the team, and that made them a pretty fun team to watch. A couple guys stepped up, like Colin Gillespie. Royce O'Neal stepped up in some big moments. Devin Booker, obviously. Jalen Green started to pick it up towards the end of the year, and in the series, he really started to pick it up. Had some breakout performances, but again, it just went exactly how I expected it to go. And the first point I have on this is Shea entering that all-time great convo? Like, I think that's what really asserts this team in that dominance. I think that along with their defense and along with their cohesion on offense. Like, Shea is playing at an all-time level, and I think more and more people are realizing it as time goes on. But, like, I think he has the MVP locked up for this year. But not only that, like, when you watch him play, like, when I was watching this Lakers Thunder game, like, he didn't have the best game from a statistical standpoint, but, like, when you watch his impact in that game specifically, like, in this game and in every single game in this Thunder Sun series, like, Shea, when he scores, you can't stop him. But, like, even if you throw everyone at him, he's always going to make the right decision. He has so much gravity as an offensive player and as an offensive engine that, like, regardless if he's scoring the ball every single time he has the ball, he's going to make the right read, and the Thunder are going to benefit from it. And they have throughout his whole tenure there, and he's continued to get better. And I think that, like, this year specifically really cements him in that conversation. Like, hey, Jokic is starting to enter that top 15 conversation. Is Shea entering with the championship this year? Which I think that out of all the teams in the West right now, besides the Spurs, I think that the Thunder are looking really good to come out of the West. I think they are my first to second favorite to come out of the West as of right now, with the four teams remaining in the West. But yeah, like, if they win another championship, if he wins another Finals MVP, like, he's got to enter that same conversation, in my opinion. That would be two MVPs if he locks it up this year, which I think he will. That would be two championships and two Finals MVPs back to back. Like, and how old is he? Like 26, 27? Like, he has so much room to grow. He's just entering his prime. Like, he's going to be an all-time great. He's going to be a top 5 shooting guard easily by the end of his career, in my opinion. Like, I don't know if that's a hot take, but as of right now, on the trajectory he's at, he is leading this team, and the Thunder will be a scary team moving forward as long as he's on this team, as long as they keep this core. And yeah, this Thunder Sun series, I mean, just like I was saying, I mean, with the Thunder defensive dominance, with Shea playing at an all-time great level, with J-Dub, I mean, J-Dub's missed some time. He missed some time in that series, but, like, you couldn't really tell. You couldn't really tell they were missing their second best player. Like, they were playing like they weren't missing anyone. Like, they were playing completely healthy. And on top of that, questionary, like, or is questionary a word? I don't know. Fact check me on that, please. But, like, the questioning, I don't know if it's questioning or questionary. I don't know. Questionary might not be a word. The questioning, officiating, like, that. I know it's kind of like beating on a dead horse at this point, but, like, you can't say that the Thunder don't get an advantage due to the whistle. Like, I think that is almost apparent at this point. And in this series, speaking most specifically to that Alex Caruso play where he basically called the tech on Dylan Brooks, or not on Dylan Brooks, on Devin Booker. I apologize. Sorry, Dylan Brooks just gets so many techs. I'm just used to him getting a tech. But when Alex Caruso basically called that tech on Devin Booker, like, I think that was just completely unnecessary. On top of Shea always getting those fouls, that has been notorious throughout the regular season and throughout his career so far. Like, I think the Thunder are just going to be really hard to beat, and I think that if any team's going to beat them this playoffs or this postseason, it's going to be a 7-6 game series. You can't dominate this Thunder team. They're just too well rounded and they're too dominant, like I said. But yeah, so that's all I have for the Thunder Suns series, and then we will be moving on to the Lakers Rockets series. Now, this series, we started off with one of the most obvious results, one of the most expected results, and now we will be going into one of the most unexpected results of the series, and that is the Lakers Rockets series. Now, if you look at their depth chart and their roster specifically, fully healthy, this series would be up there for one of the series of the first round of the playoffs. Like, this, from a talent perspective and from a roster constructed perspective, this was going to be a great series. Injuries deterred that from happening, and, like, obviously that's unfortunate, but there's nothing we can do about it. But with the pieces that were available on both sides going into the series, I feel like the majority of fans thought that the Rockets had this series in the bag. Kevin Durant didn't really have the injury concerns that he had in the first round going in. They just were a healthier team. Like, obviously they were inconsistent, like I talked about in a previous episode. They've had those inconsistencies and those flaws, whether that's due to the burner or not. Like, that's obviously a notorious contributor to that. But, like, the Rockets just were in a much better position to win, and it felt like they were almost a shoo-in to win the series with 41-year-old LeBron James at the helm for the Lakers. But that leads me right into my first point of this segment. Like, call me a LeBron Glazer all you want. Call me a LeBron meat rider all you want. LeBron's greatness was on full display this series. Like, in my opinion, as someone who thinks LeBron is the greatest player of all time, this series should cement his GOAT status. I think that, like, you can't look at how he performed this series, averaging, 25 and up, like, somewhere in that range, 25 to 28, somewhere around there, and just having multiple double-doubles in this series, contributing in all aspects of the game. Defensively, you really saw him be aggressive and be that full-out hustle defender like he was in Miami, like he was in the early Cleveland days. Like, you saw that at age 41 and leading a team where the second best player for most of the series was DeAndre Ayton or Luke Kennard. Like, and you win in 6 games. The series didn't even go to 7 games. You were up 3-0 at one point. Like, you took the first 3 games with a 41-year-old player as your best player in that series. Like, if that doesn't tell you that LeBron James is at least the second best player of all time, I don't know what else does. He was able to single-handedly make every single other player on that Lakers roster better in that series. And he was the heart and soul of that Lakers team that entire series at 41 years old, when so many people were thinking that the Lakers would lose in 5, maybe even get swept in this series. Like, he put on the performance and lifted this team to look like one of the best teams coming out of the first round, just with how good they played on the defensive side of the ball, which has been a question mark for this Lakers team in the past. Like, they just looked like such a cohesive unit, and I think that, like, that is such a key going forward into the series with the Thunder. I won't be talking about it too much. Like I said, I'm going to be saving that for the episode coming next week. But, like, just that Lakers defensive identity where they're all moving, everyone's engaged, everyone's talking. You really see the energy on the defensive side of the ball. On top of LeBron just being that assertive presence, being that player that everyone knows he can be, being this guy who was great on all 3 of those teams. Like, if he can be even a sliver of that kind of player, like, the Lakers are in such a good position. And if Luka can get back in, like, Luka's health has been a question mark this playoffs, and it's still in question if he's even going to be healthy to return to this series. But, like, if you can shoe Luka in and not lose that defensive identity and not lose LeBron's assertiveness offensively and defensively, like, with Austin Reeves back in the fold, like, obviously he has looked a little shaky since coming back. You don't expect him to be that lead scorer, that playoff riser like he's been in the past after coming off that hamstring injury, or no, that oblique injury. I'm sorry, I was thinking about Luka there. But this Lakers team is slowly starting to fall back into like their best self in terms of health. Like you're starting to get your pieces back. LeBron's looking better than he has all season. Austin Reeves is starting to get back into his rhythm. He's not right now. I mean, he's not in his rhythm. Sorry, he's not in his rhythm right now. But as time goes on, he will get back into that rhythm. That's just the player that Austin Reeves is. Like this Lakers team can make this a competitive series. It's just, can they maintain that defensive identity? Can they be that team that's really gonna like, I don't know what the word for like stay with it in those games and just battle with the Thunder, because the Thunder are is a roster full of dogs defensively, offensively. Like they are such a unit, and they just play almost as one as a team on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Like they just need to keep it competitive. If you can keep it competitive and bring it down to that crunch time, that clutch time scenario, I trust players like Luka Doncic, like LeBron James, with how he's been playing so far, to combat Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, obviously, Shai's a historic clutch performer, but LeBron and Luka are too. And if they can play at the best of their abilities, on top of maintaining that defensive identity, like I've repeated so many times in the segment, like the Lakers can make this a competitive series. Tonight wasn't competitive. Tonight went exactly how I thought it was going to go. I will get into that next week, like I said. But this team has the tools to make this a competitive series and to push this game to 6 or 7 games, in my opinion. Stop. 6 or 7 games, in my opinion. No pun intended. But I do think the Thunder will come out. I just think the Thunder are a more competitive, more complete team all around. They are just, I think they're more fit for the win now than the Lakers are at this point. But with that being said, that's all I have for the Lakers-Rockets series. Now we will be moving on into the Spurs and Blazers series. Now this series was very interesting, and this series kind of caught me off guard. I thought the Spurs were going to dominate this series. This was one of those series that I was kind of looking at similar to how I was looking at the Thunder Sun series, and similar to how I was looking at the Celtics Sixers series before that got going. I will get into that when we get into the East. Like, I thought this was just going to be like a mollywop. I thought that the Spurs were just going to handle the Blazers, and in some games they did. But the Blazers have such a bright future. Like, next year you bring a guy like Damon. I think that what the Blazers missed this series and what they missed this year is in total, and what was really apparent when watching the series is they missed that score. Denny Avdia did step up in a lot of instances, don't get me wrong, but like Denny's not going to be your Batman. I'm sorry, he can't be your Batman on a winning team. Like, you need a scorer, someone who's going to go out there and just be a playoff riser. Every single other team in this West, in the Western Conference, has that playoff riser in this first round. Had that playoff riser. Besides the Blazers, you just didn't have that guy to lean on. And I guess a team like the Spurs, who are sorry, it's late when I'm recording this, who are a historic team defensively, like, you need that scorer. And that's why I think that, like, obviously this year was kind of just like testing the waters in terms of what this team can be moving forward. They're still very young, but like next year when Dame gets back into that fold, and if he can beat that elite scorer that you can lean on in those clutch time scenarios, like playoff scenarios with a lot on the line, which Dame has proven to be able to do in the past, like, I think that's all this Blazers team really needs to be really competitive in the West. They kept it competitive in a lot of games in this series just because of how defensively physical they are and how just hungry they are as a team. You see it in how they play. You see it in their energy. It's contagious. They're similar to the Thunder. They play together, and they play off that energy. They play off getting stops. They play off moving in transition and getting those transition buckets, getting to the rack and drawing those fouls. Like, they love that style of play. And if you can ease Damian Lillard into that fold and hope that he can be a 20 to 25 point per game scorer with that clutch gene that he has had in his career, this Blazers team will look good moving forward, and they will be a team to watch in the West moving forward, with players like Scoot Henderson, who really stepped up in the playoffs, with players like Shaedon Sharpe, who I think is getting written off way too soon. I think that he will have a big bounce back year. Last year barely got played in this series, which I think was a little shaky of a decision on Tiago Splitter's part. But, he's the coach. I'm just a 17, about to turn 18 in 4 days. The next episode I will be 18 years old. It's crazy to think about. I haven't even really thought about that. It's crazy. But what am I to say? Like, that's not my decision. But, like, with players like Shaden Sharp, with weapons like Shaden Sharp, like Scoot Henderson, like Denny Avdia, like Tumani Kamara, who is an all NBA defensive caliber defender, like, this team is set up. Donovan Clingan, I didn't even get started on Donovan Clingan, who I think is going to be a premier big man moving forward. Like, this Blazers team has a lot of potential, and I think that they will be a team to look out for moving forward. But this Spurs team was just way too good, man. Like, Wemby, yeah, the point I have in this segment says Spurs look scary, but like the more I think about it, like the more I watch Victor Wembanyama play basketball, the more I fear for the future of the league. Just because I think we're entering an era where, obviously, as of right now, the face of the league status is up in the air. But every game that these Spurs play, man, Wemby is starting to make it more and more clear, to me at least, that face of the league status is his to lose. Like, he is honestly, if you were to think of the perfect basketball player, like a lot of people compare him to a 2K player. Like, picture making the best possible player on 2K to the point where, like, no one can stop you. Like, you're the best in every category. That is Victor Wembanyama. He has no flaws in his game at this point. Coming into the league, he was a little slim. He was a little, like, you were worried about him getting bullied. Last night, he had 12 blocks. He had a 12-block triple-double. He's not going to get bitched in, excuse my language. He's not going to get bitched in the paint. He's not going to get babied in the paint. He can hold his own. He can manage those big bodies like Jokic, who's not even in the playoffs anymore, and we will get into that in the next segment, actually. Like, against those big guys like Jokic, like Embiid, like Karl Anthony Towns, like Bam Adebayo, like Domantas Sabonis, like those big bodies that are known for being able to brutalize their defenders under the basket. You can't really do that against Wemby. Like, he had the length before, he just lacked the strength. He's getting stronger. He's getting smarter. He's just getting better in every single category, and it's so obvious watching them play. He's learning how to use his God-given abilities to his ability. I don't know if that even grammatically makes sense, but just roll with it. He's starting to use his assets and his tools to his ability, on top of Stephon Castle, who just keeps getting better, on top of Wemby getting better. You have guys like Dylan Harper, who had 27 in a game this series, like, who has shown that he will be a premier scorer when he progresses into his prime and when he starts to slowly progress into that prime. And then obviously De'Aaron Fox, who has been a cemented top 10 point guard for seemingly since his second year, in my opinion, or since his third year. I don't want to say second year. Second year, he wasn't really that good. But De'Aaron Fox is a solidified star player. You have Dylan Harper coming off the bench. You have Keldon Johnson, the sixth man of the year, coming off the bench. You have Devin Vassell, who's an elite off-the-ball shooter. You have Julian Champagnie, who's similar to Devin Vassell, a great off-the-ball shooter. Luke Cornett, who's a great rotation big. Stephon Castle, who can really do it all as a guard, do everything you want him to do as a guard. Like, this Spurs team is going to give the Thunder a run for the money when they meet. I think that they will meet in the Western Conference Finals, and I think that this will be one of the best series in NBA history, just because both of these teams are so complete. And after watching their matchups in the regular season, like, getting to watch a 7-game series in the Western Conference Finals with this team would just be a privilege. And I think I speak for all NBA fans when I say that's just what we want to see. And that's what I expect to see, because this Spurs team just looks so scary, and Wemby just looks so scary. And with that being said, we will be going into the last segment of the Western Conference, and that will be the Nuggets and T-Wolves series. Now, similar to the Lakers-Rockets series, this series caught me off guard pretty significantly, and not really in the result, more so, but it was more so the fact that the T-Wolves went through what they went through throughout the series, with losing Dante DiVincenzo, with losing Anthony Edwards in Game 5, with losing Ayo. Like, they had every excuse to lean on to lose this series. Like, and I honestly thought they were going to lose this series after they lost all those guys, all those important players. I honestly considered, like, not watching the rest of the series. Like, I was like, okay, this is the Nuggets series to lose. If they lose, I will be completely stunned. But, like, the Nuggets have every way to win this series. and they lost it. And whether that's due to the Timberwolves playing an extremely great style of basketball, which I do think you have to credit. I think that they play a very exciting brand of basketball. And a lot of their players stepped up in the series, like Terrence Shannon, like Jaden McDaniels, who was a playoff riser and has proven to be a playoff riser in several of the Timberwolves' recent playoff runs. But yeah, I think that this Timberwolves team, like, they cannot be discredited for this performance. Like, everyone stepped up. Mike Conley, at however old he is, I think he's, 38, 37, stepped up and played important basketball for this Timberwolves team after being traded and signing back with the Timberwolves and being basically like a James Johnson, Garrett Temple kind of player, just like a mentor on the bench. But then they needed him to step up, and he did, and he played important basketball just like everyone else on this team did. And they just played so together, and they play with so much energy. They play with more energy than almost any other team in the NBA, and I think that's their biggest key to winning is just that energy and that confidence that they have within themselves, that regardless of how the regular season went, regardless of how the record they had in the regular season stacks up with the teams they play, they know that they are a playoff team and that they step up in the playoffs. And that is why you can never count this Timberwolves team out. Like, Anthony Edwards was out for the rest of the series. Like, everyone wrote the Timberwolves off, but they stepped up because they are a playoff team and they proved that you cannot count this team out ever. But with all that being said, with all that credit given to the Timberwolves, the Nuggets do need to switch it up. Like, this Nuggets core has been the same since, I don't know what, 2020, 2021. Like, they haven't made significant changes besides trading Michael Porter Jr. this last offseason. But, like, this same core of Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Christian Braun, Aaron Gordon, like, it's been the same. Peyton Watson off the bench. Like, it's been the same. And they added some veterans this offseason, don't get me wrong. But, like, it was the same core. And I don't know why I didn't think this was all that was going to happen going into it. But, like, looking back, looking in retrospect, this team wasn't going to succeed. They were too confident in their core that hadn't won them a final since 2023. Like, the West continues to get better, and the Nuggets were seemingly too confident that they had the best player in the world, that they have the best player in the world. I do think Nikola Jokic is still the best basketball player in the world currently. But, like, they were too confident in that, and they were too confident in that core to get them back to that level, and they just never did. And I think that now more than ever, like, they need to make a serious splash. And I don't know if that's trading Jamal Murray. I don't know if that's trading Aaron Gordon. I don't know if that's trading the surrounding pieces, trading some of those veteran and young guys to try to get another star to pair alongside them. I don't know what that move is, but they need to switch something up. They need to make an impactful move, whether that's a coaching change. I don't think Dave Adelman's bad coach. I like Dave Adelman, actually. So I don't think that's the route. Excuse me. I don't think that's the route they should go. But this Nuggets team, like I keep saying, like, they just need to switch something up. They need to find a new identity, and they need to find a new way to improve this team around Nikola Jokic, because eventually it's going to run dry. And I just, like, I don't know. The Nuggets need to make a change. The Timberwolves look really exciting, and I'm just so excited for the second round in the Western Conference, to be specific, just because of how the first round went, not how all of these teams played in the first round. So that will wrap up the Western Conference portion of this podcast. When we come back, we will be talking all about the Eastern Conference first round series. Stay tuned. And now, to start the Eastern Conference segment of the podcast, we will be talking about the Pistons and Magic series. Now, this series caught me off guard pretty significantly, and I did have my doubts with Detroit going in, just because of the doubts that pretty much every NBA fan had going into the playoffs about the Pistons. Is just that scoring aid on top of Cade Cunningham and to assist and get the ball out of Cade Cunningham's hands. And that was pretty evident in the series, just because we knew the Magic were a physical defensive team going into this game. We knew their game plan was centered around their defense and how versatile they are defensively and how switchable they are defensively. And that was proven. Jalen Duren was basically taken out of the series, right? And I feel like that kind of worries me going into the series against the Cavs. Like, Game one, they looked really good, right? Like, and I think that they looked like the Pistons that we saw in the regular season, right? Firing all on all cylinders with that energy. It's just this series shows that when you have an elite defense, when you have defenders, when you have elite interior defense, I mean, all the Magic had really on the interior was Wendell Carter, who played very well in this series, don't get me wrong. But besides that, who did they really have to stop Jalen Duren? And they still took him out of the series. Now, going into the series against the Cavs, you have formidable interior defenders like Jared Allen, like Evan Mobley, the Twin Towers. Like, I don't know. I'm worried. If I was a Pistons fan, I'd be worried, right? Just because the Magic are a way less skilled team than than the Cavs are, right? In terms of offense. But like, I don't know. I don't know. I just think that the Pistons need that like scoring. Like Amen Thompson stepped up as a defender. I'm not Amen. I apologize. Asar Thompson stepped up as a defender. Tobias Harris stepped up in scoring in some instances. He had a big series. But like, are you really gonna rely on Tobias Harris to be your secondary scorer and get you to a championship as your secondary scorer? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Jalen Duren hasn't proven to me that he can be that secondary scorer on a championship team. And I don't know. Like, I just don't think that they have what it takes. I don't think they have the firepower to, if they do get past a team, if they do get past the Cavs, get past a team like the Knicks or the Sixers. Like, I just don't see it. Like, they just don't have the firepower. And yeah, I just think that the Pistons are very fraudulent going into the second round. But now looking at the Magic, like, it's time to shake it up. And you tried shaking it up a little bit this offseason by adding Desmond Bain and trading all those picks and like really buying in on the now. But like, where'd it get you? It got you right back to where you were the past couple seasons, like right in that playing game, right in that like seventh, eighth seed. Like they haven't really done anything with this core. And I'm not saying move off of Paolo. I think Paolo proved in this series that he is the franchise player and that he is the player that this team should build around moving forward. But around that, like, can you trust Jalen Suggs to be your lead guard? Can you trust Franz Wagner to stay healthy in these big games? Like he just wasn't healthy. And like Desmond Bane's a good player. I think Desmond Bane played really well throughout the regular season and in this series in some instances. But like I just they need to shake it up. They just haven't won. And they started shaking it up with firing Jamal Mosley. But you gotta look at the roster too. You gotta look at the actual players and really see what's going on. Because like this team isn't talented enough to like in an open East. They're not talented enough to cement themselves at the top. Like I thought this Magic team was going to be at the top of the East going into the season, but they just fell short of expectations, and that seems to be their theme every single year. And yeah, it's just time to shake it up. Roster wise, make trades, make signings, like spice things up. Really make like build around Paolo. Paolo is going to be a star player. Like if he's already a star player. I think he's going to be a superstar. Like build around that. Really lean into that momentum and really build around that. And I think that the Magic could have a bright future if they make the right moves. If this front office hires a formidable head coach. I apologize. Hires a formidable head coach. Like I think they should hire Billy Donovan or like a Tom Thibodeau. Like I think they should go after one of those prominent names. But like just hiring a formidable name that could really mesh with this talent and really implement a system that fits well with this talent that centers around the defense, but can also bring the best out of players like Paolo and players like Desmond Bain offensively, and even Franz Wagner if he's still in the fold next year. Like the Pistons have so much potential. They just have to shake it up and make some important moves this offseason. So that is all that I have for the Pistons and Magic series. Now moving on to the Celtics and 76ers series. Now, this series was the most surprising series, not only in the East, but maybe in the entire playoffs. Just because, like, I had the Celtics as my championship favorites going in because I thought with the groove they were in at the end of the regular season, going into the playoffs with Tatum looking like he's getting back into that healthy mold, like playing those heavy minutes, I thought the Celtics were primed to win the East. I thought that this East was open. I thought that the Pistons being the one seed was a glaring sign that the East was open, and I thought the Celtics were going to capitalize, um, but they just didn't, and they were up 3-1, and I thought that the series was a wrap. But one of the most noticeable things as the series progressed is that Tatum, I feel like, just wasn't ready for those big playoff, like that heavy playoff load in minutes. Like, I just think his body wasn't ready, and you saw it at the end of the series. He didn't play in Game 7. Like, he just wasn't ready, and I feel like the Celtics, I mean, they did ease him into the fold. He played like the last 20-something games of the regular season. Like, he played a significant amount, and he got back into game shape, but his body just wasn't prepared, and the Celtics leaned on him too much. And I just think that I think Joe Mazzulla can be to blame for this collapse in the series, but I also think that the supporting cast and players like Jaylen Brown, who was very undisciplined defensively in this series, he was in foul trouble very frequently. It felt like, and just the rest of the supporting cast, I felt like no one could really get going in the series. Felt like those bench guys that you leaned on in the regular season, like Ron Harper, like Bailey Sherm, like Bailey. Bailey. I'm just gonna skip that name. Like Jordan Walsh, those kind of guys that you leaned on in the regular season, it just felt like they couldn't lean on in the playoffs, and I feel like that combined with Joe Mazzulla, like I said, like I feel like that's why this series went the way it did. But at the same time, if I was a Celtics fan, I wouldn't be too worried. I think that you are still in a great spot. I think that Tatum has with Tatum having the entire offseason to get his body ramped up and back into game shape like prime Tatum, and with Jaylen Brown having the opportunity to build upon the season you just had, the career year, the MVP caliber year, he was in MVP conversations at the beginning of the year. Like, the Celtics are in a great position. I think that you can move off of Derek White if you want. I think that you should explore the market for him and see if you can get that third piece, or like see if you could upgrade at the big. But I if you don't move off of him and you really buy in on Neemias Queta, because I think Neemias Queta can be a very great big in this league, not like an all-star caliber, but like a very great starting big in this league. Like, I'm not too worried if I'm a Celtics fan. Like, I think the Celtics are still in a great position. They're still going to be at the top of the East next year. Like, they have a great roster. It's just building on top of that and just really developing that talent that started to break through this year. But now that that's out of the way, the 76ers. Now, I think that going into the series, I think that I kind of went in with the expectation that Joel Embiid was not going to play for most of the series. I thought that when he did play, he was not going to look like the same Joel Embiid. Kind of like the Joel Embiid we saw in the regular season, where he wasn't the all-star MVP caliber Joel Embiid that we saw in prior years, right? That dominated the league. But he was kind of just like a shell of that self, averaging around like 20 to 22 points per game, like in that area, somewhere around like 7 rebounds, not even aggressive enough to get those rebounds, not even like physical enough to be that dominant scoring presence that he once was. But in this series, when he came back, I think he came back in game 3, the entire tide and the entire momentum behind this series shifted. And it's because of how talented of a basketball player Joel Embiid is, and how good, and in my opinion, how generational of a talent he is. Like, his ability to score on all 3 levels changes the entire defensive scheme. Like, Tyrese Maxey was able to get so much better looks just because Joel Embiid was on the floor, just because Neemias Queta or Nikola Vucevic couldn't help off of Joel Embiid. Because if they did, Joel Embiid can score from wherever. Like, you're leaving a formidable scorer, a top of the league scorer. You can't leave that open. You have to be paying attention to that at all times. On top of that, you have scorers around him like Paul George, who has been playing great and who played great in this series and who has been playing great ever since he came back from that suspension. Tyrese Maxey, who's been having a career, like I said, averaging 30 a game. VJ Edgecombe, who's really been a standout rookie from this draft class this year. I think guys off the bench like Kelly Oubre, who really stepped up in this series, who's really that spark plug off the bench. Guys like Quentin Grimes, who's just guard depth, but he has proven that he is a very, like, I wouldn't say very great. I would say he's an above average guard, and he can give you those minutes and can give you that 20-point breakout game if you need him to. Yeah, the Sixers team is just very exciting. They're very scary with Embiid. And when Embiid's on the court, it creates so much opportunities for all of these other players on this team that can score for themselves. Just gives them more space to do so. And the Sixers team just benefited from that. And their energy, you saw it. Like, Embiid was on the bench, like, standing up, waving a towel over his head. Like, I haven't seen him do that in so long. And that was just so fun to watch. And this Sixers team can make a run if Embiid can stay healthy and if he can keep playing like the Embiid that we all know he can play like. So that is all that I have to say about the Celtics Sixers series. Now we will be moving on to the Cavs Raptors series. The Cavs Raptors series and the Knicks Hawks series, I don't have much to say. The Cavs Raptors series, it did go to 7, but I thought the series was going to go to 7, right? Like, I thought the Raptors were going to keep the series competitive. They have that unorthodox team that can make it uncomfortable for these teams to succeed and to execute their game plan offensively, especially when they have those small ball lineups. I'm sorry. I have been messing up my grammar a lot in this episode. I'm sorry. It's been a long week. There's been a lot going through my mind. Anyways, back to the topic. The Raptors, especially when they run those small ball lineups with CMB at the 5 and with like Scotty Barnes at the 4, like, those lineups are so unconventional, but they're so good. They're such a switchable team defensively. Like, this, I feel like the Raptors were always going to I always felt like the Raptors were going to make the series competitive. And the Cavs had little wrinkles in their team at the start of the series, I would say. You kind of saw the chemistry between Donovan Mitchell and James Harden really show that it's not developed yet. That they just kind of were trying to determine when it was time for either of them to take over the game. But as the series progressed, I feel like they started to figure it out, especially in Game 7. It really showed. They kind of exploded in that second half in Game 7, and they just showed that in the regular season, I felt like they kind of proved that this was a formidable team. This was a team that was going to be atop the contenders of the East going into the playoffs. But, like, apologies for the technical difficulties. My iPad died. Very unfortunate timing. But what can I say? I got to charge my stuff. But anyways, like I was saying, this Cavs team has really started to come into their own. And moving forward, I think going into this series against the Pistons, I think that with this momentum they're building, and I think that if Evan Mobley can step up and be that third scorer, and I think that if them two can take Jalen Duren out of the series, similar to the way the Magic did, on top of the offense, I think that they will succeed, and I think that they will overcome the Pistons, and I think that they have potential to win the East and come out on top moving forward. Hold on, I'm sorry about this. Anyways, so yeah, that is all that I have to say about the Cavs and Raptors series. And to finish off the Eastern Conference segment of the podcast and the overall podcast, we will be talking about the Knicks and Hawks game. Not Knicks and Hawks game, Knicks and Hawks series, I apologize. There's not a lot to say about this series besides, in my opinion, the Knicks are the favorites in the East at this point. This team is so complete, and at the start of the series, you really saw, especially down the stretch, their holes became obvious, their holes became glaring, and I kind of got worried for the Knicks that they might not even come out of the first round, and if they do, they are kind of a fraudulent team moving forward. But as the series progressed, and obviously in the last game of the series, when they won by 50-something points, like, this depth is so much better than last season, and I think that, like, the starting 5 of Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges has been shaky as of late, but I do trust him as a defender. I do trust him to step up and hit some big shots. OG Anunoby, who has really stepped up as an offensive player and as an offensive scoring threat. I'm sorry, I kind of brushed over Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is obviously a playoff riser and an elite point guard in this league. Josh Hart, who can really do it all for your team and be that winning player. And then Karl-Anthony Towns, who does Karl-Anthony Towns things, one of the best big shooters of all time. And that lineup in itself has looked great together. I feel like defensively, they look engaged. Offensively, they're starting to get into their sets more frequently and more efficiently. I feel like all of their players are stepping up in big moments. I feel like they're all finding their roles. And then on top of that, Jordan Clarkson has been an extreme spark plug for this team off the bench. He has been an elite scoring presence for this Knicks second squad. On top of that, you have guys like Miles McBride, who has hit some big shots, who has proven to be that scoring threat, or not scoring threat, that shooting threat that he has been for the Knicks in the past that was kind of inconsistent throughout the regular season. And then Mitchell Robinson, who has been very impressive in in the first series, in the first round, I should say, just because I feel like he really cemented himself as that interior force coming off the bench, that lob threat, that shot blocker that the Knicks really need coming off the bench. And that entire second unit is really coming into its own in itself, on top of the starting five being as explosive and as versatile as they are. They are my favorites right now, and I think that that Hawks game and the Knicks and 76ers game won last night just proves that they are a dominant team and they have all the momentum on their side going forward. But it will be very interesting. I feel like the East is still very open. Even in the second round, I feel like there's not really a team that cemented themselves as the favorites moving forward. I mean, the Knicks are mine, but I don't think that's an obvious pick. I feel like you can really go anywhere with who you think is going to come out of the East at this point and out of the West. But yeah, with all of that being said, that will conclude this episode of Sights to Sideline Report. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and stay tuned for when the next episode drops. Thank you so much again. God bless, and have a great rest of your week.